So today we'll be trying my good friend and fellow judge Ekron Vulture. The one accusing him of these civil crimes is Joel, the GWM. The What he's being accused of by Joel, from what I understand, is theft of several avian pets. Very interesting there. Because of that, he's also claiming damages for crimes against birds. One, because the birds are also pets, and because Joel is also a bird. And tacked on in there, association with the British. Joel, are these charges, am I right? Do you still choose to file all those charges?
Yes, Your Honour.
Any of the details of that case wrong, or anything like that? Or was it the general gist of everything correct?
That is correct, Your Honour.
All right, outstanding. Okay, so now that we know what he's being tried for, crimes against birds, theft, and association with the British, we'll go ahead and proceed. Jury, I'd like to state that this is a civil case, therefore you two don't need to be in a unanimous decision, it just needs to be majority. That being said, there's only two of you, so if you are at an impasse, it's going to be my decision. Do you have any questions? No.
Nope.
Okay, we're going to keep our mouth shut like a bunch of fucking dumbasses, then we're just going to proceed with the case. Is that understood? All right. Let's go ahead and start with the opening statement of the defendant. Mr. Ekron Vulture, I'm quite fond of you, so please do not make me change my mind.
Thank you, Your Honour. Esteemed members of the jury, the gallery, Mr. Joel and the judge, my name is Ekron Vulture, and laid before me in this civil case are three heinous crimes of which I am only guilty of one, which I will admit now, for I associate with the British. I am an associate of Mr. Joel, and he is also British, therefore he is guilty of the same crime, Your Honour, and I do not think that we should pursue that one in particular. The other two crimes against birds and crimes against stealing your birds, I don't need to steal your birds, I've got birds here and I'll prove that during the court case. And as for crimes against birds, well, the rules of the game stated that what I did was perfectly legal, Your Honour. Thank you.
Interesting, I don't remember an Uno game being brought up in this case, but it is what it is. Mr. Joel, your opening statements.
As you can tell, I will be my birds and myself being the beast. Last week ago, he told me a non-bird on a no-touting thing, so I'm technically a bird and a dragon. So, last week ago, when we do some no-touting, he told me a non-bird. Well, I'm technically a bird and a dragon in the other hand.
Accuse you of not being a bird. Okay, understood.
Yeah.
That's the crime against birds. Okay, and the theft?
Yeah. And the first, about a couple of days ago, he steals one of my pet bird, but turned into a robot bird.
Robot bird, interesting.
And I'm really upset with that.
Okay. It's a pretty clear opening statement. Why do I keep dropping my damn gavel? Stubby arms, give me a second. Very clear opening statements from both parties. That was very good stuff, thank you. So, before I proceed, do you guys have any physical evidence or any witnesses that you'd like to present before we proceed?
Your Honour, I do have two witnesses that I'd like to refer to, although they are both physically in my home, as in the house I'm in, so they'll be speaking through my microphone, Your Honour.
Understood. What are their names and their occupations?
Mr. Tailvane, who is an excellent boyfriend, and Mr. Pidge, who is the resident pigeon of the household, are my witnesses, Your Honour.
Resident pigeon of the household, understood. Is he the only resident pigeon of your household, or is he,
He is the only resident pigeon of the household. There are two resident budgerigars, one resident canary, and one resident cockatiel. However, they have gone to bed. Mr. Pidge, however, likes to stay up to observe what's going on in the world.
Okay, understood. And you stated this is an employment, correct? How do you pay Mr. Pigeon?
I pay Mr. Pigeon in rent, food, and water, as well as the ability to reproduce with various objects in my house because he's a horny bastard.
Interesting. There's several legal questions to be unraveled there, but that's not the purview of this here court case. You and I are going to have a discussion about personal conduct later, Judge Wilcher.
Yes, Your Honor.
Anyway, so
May I also
you
bring up,
have
Your Honor?
your significant other.
Oh, my apologies,
up.
Your Honor. No, I apologise. I've interrupted.
No, go for it.
I was going
who
to
else
say,
you need?
I would like to call the judgment of the jury into question, as they were both also present during the go-karting incident as alleged in the Crimes Against Birds, and were also referred to in ways that are not necessarily descriptive of themselves, but I believe with more context would make sense. But they were there, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I
They
was
were
going
there?
to say the same thing as well.
So, okay, so you both think the jury should be thrown out.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, well, if you both agree to pursue this as a bench case, jury, you can stay there, but I'm sorry, you are now useless. I'm sure it is not the first time. Yeah, sorry.
It actually is.
Just like the parents all over again, I'm sure. I mean, this seat is difficult for my body composition.
It is a
Right.
bit awkward, Your Honor.
So, never mind. I will be the sole judge of this here case, and I will do the best to make it as interesting as possible. Right, so... All right, Mr. Ekron Vulture, you may come forward and give your side of the case first. It's a bit unorthodox, but we have technical difficulties.
Thank you, Your Honour. I would actually like to ask which of the parts of the case would you like me to address first, Your Honour?
You're going to have to say that again. My audio cut out there for some reason.
Which part of the case would you like me to refer to first, Your Honour?
We'll go ahead and start with the crimes against birds allegation, since that's the most verbal. Do you have, go ahead and explain that side of the case. What do you think about the crimes against birds? The accusations.
So, the accusation laid against me is that during a visual lineup of the races taking part in the Bird Racing Championship of Bird and Eggs Incubation Racing Explosions and Death, that I did label Mr. Joel here, a Lugia, who is a bird dragon type, dragon bird, I don't know the order, as a not bird. However, this was done in a comical, satirical way, as the way that I addressed the other 5 races also described them whilst not describing them. Now, I know that you did ask if I had evidence, and I failed to announce some, but I would be willing to play the audio clip of the entirety of that period. It's about 30 seconds, as I approach the drivers and say what they are, so that the court can hear exactly what was said and allege, so there is no hearsay as to what was said.
Objection. Lugia is a psychic
Go
type,
for
not a
it.
dragon.
Shut up, Lee. I apologise, my witness, Mr. Tailvane, is incredibly passionate about Pokemon, and he will behave, Your Honour.
Yes, can you tell your invisible boyfriend not to interject when he's not called on?
Darling, the judge says, would you tell your invisible boyfriend not to interject when it's brought up? Could you not, please? Please. Love you. Yes, of course, Your Honour. He's looking very annoyed. Just play with the mallard or something.
Isn't that sweet? Go ahead and play your audio clip, Mr. Vulture.
Very well, Your Honour, if you bear with me for 1 minute,
Quite frankly, this case is a joke.
Oh, of course, it's a fun joke, though. If you bear with me for 1 minute, Your Honour, I'm just going to bring it up on my mobile telecommunications device. Holy shit, that's a weird video looking. Right, it is the latest video. This video was posted positively 2 days ago. However, it was shared in our group chat a period beforehand. I just have to find the exact moment in the track, Your Honour. If you'd be kind enough to bear with me, I do apologise for the inconvenience.
I've borne through quite a bit, so feel free. I've borne through much worse. I dropped my gavel again. Christ almighty, this is not made for bear physiology. Right. My arms are too stubby. As is my torso.
Right, Your Honour, I have found the clip, so I would like to now present it to the court. Is everybody ready?
Go for it.
They have this beautiful person who's red, and this beautiful person who is not red. And over here we've got this person who's wearing a badge. And then there's this person who isn't a bird. And then there's this person who is a bird and looks quite angry. And finally, there's that guy. We don't ask why he wears glasses, because he obviously doesn't need them. And they're all going to be racing 2 laps on this wonderful course for pure and utter victory. So that would be the clip in question, where it is stated, number 4, that I did call him not a bird, although I also referred to Mr. Barnaboo as that red guy. And he is red, which is descriptive, but does not also call him a bird, Your Honour. So I believe this is a piece of satire for entertainment purposes in the Bird Racing World Championships of egg laying, incubation, and whatever I called it beforehand with death, that has been taken out of context, of which I'd like to offer a sincere apology to the plaintiff in this case for mislabelling him as not a bird.
To be fair, 95% of your life is a satire. Mr. Joel, would you like to dispute any of the evidence presented?
No, Your Honor.
Interesting choice. Moving on then to the theft. Could you go ahead and, do you have any evidence you'd like to present in terms of why you did not steal Mr. Joel's pet birds?
So, the first thing I'm going to do is point out the distance between where Mr. Me and Mr. Joel live, as well as bringing up some local landmarks to me as to why I wouldn't have to do that. But the first thing is, Mr. Joel lives at least a 3-hour car drive away from me, and anybody who knows me knows that I am a bus driver, although not for much longer, but that I don't actually own a car. I cannot borrow a bus from work, so I have no way of physically transporting myself to the home of Mr. Joel to take his birds. Now, Mr. Joel, if I might politely ask, which birds did I allegedly take from you?
Myself.
Your Honour, is this gentleman a robotic bird?
A robotic bird. Well, what I'm seeing right now is some kind of Pokemon. To be fair, I have no idea which Pokemon is which. If you need to elucidate me, please feel free.
I'd like to bring up the second point in regards to stealing of birds, if I may do so, Your Honour.
Go for it.
Is it not true that in communications we have had in personal conversation, as it has been listed that we know each other, I have shown you photographs of myself with various different birds from the local bird zoo?
Yes.
If I had the ability to go and see these great, fantastic birds and contribute to this amazing centre that rescues and rehomes birds without having to deal with cleaning up after them, dealing with them when they're being complete bastards, and feeding them, would I really want to steal a large and technically difficult to look after bird for myself when I already have a complete bastard in the household over there?
Oh, thanks.
Not you.
Interesting point. Okay, go ahead and take a seat on the stand, and I guess let the pigeon possess your ethereal body in this plane.
Righto, Your Honour. You're going to have to bear with me for a minute because I'm going to have to sit like this and just the microphone.
This is not the first demonic prosecution we've had. There are procedures for this. This is all part of the procedure.
I apologise for that, Your Honour. I appear to have muted it. Can you hear the glorious Mr. Pidge?
Yes, I can. So, Mr. Do you mind? Would you like to cross-examine the witness first, and then Barnaby can ask questions, and then I can ask questions?
Yes, I can just ask him a few questions that I believe are relevant to the case, and then hand over, Your Honour.
Very well.
Right, Pidge. First off, my old buddy pal, are there any large robotic birds here challenging your dominance? Thank you. And have I talked about cohesive plots to steal large birds and turn them into robots, Robotnik style? I see. And thirdly, Mr. Pidge, is it true that I really need to take you for a walk because you haven't been out for a while? What do you mean you don't like going outside? You just want to squeak the France 98 mod laptop, this one? You want to do that? No, Pidge. Now is not the time to do that, Pidge. Stop it, Mr. Pidge. You must no stop.
Right,
stop it, Pidge. Stop it. Stop it, Pidge. Stop it.
Order! Mr. Pigeon, you're going to be held in contempt of court if you continue this. I know you are possessing the body of our lawyer, but please stop misbehaving with it.
Oh my God.
All right.
Right, Your Honor. I have no further questions for my friend. Although I would politely request that I'm allowed to
Okay.
remain seated here because I'm sure you can tell how horrifically uncomfortable this all is right now for me.
You may. Mr. Barnaby, would you like to cross-examine the witness?
I would like to have a translation of this as I'm not aware of Pidgin language.
I will go ahead and I'll go ahead and translate for you. So he basically denied all of the charges that was set against Ekron. You may ask him whatever questions you want. I will go ahead and flip heads or tails on this coin here to decide what his responses are, either in favor or not in favor. I will translate for you. So you may ask the bird whatever questions you need.
What are you guilty of again?
He is guilty of stealing. Ekron is guilty. Joel is accusing. Ekron is guilty is accused of stealing one of Joel's robotic birds. In addition, crimes against birds for calling Joel not a bird. His defense against the crimes against bird report was that he called everyone mean names and that it was satirical, therefore cannot fall into slander. You can respond to both of them in your later questioning. For now, go ahead and question the pigeon about the theft of Joel's bird. Do you have questions you'd like to ask the pigeon on the stand?
Does the number of birds in this household have increased recently?
Yes. Now, he says that the number of birds has not increased recently. No.
No. Are you aware of if Ekron has any de-robotifying technology to turn robot birds into normal birds?
He doesn't want to be noisy, I apologise, Your Honour. He's more insistent on murdering me right now.
Ah, yes, I see. Now, he does possess that kind of technology, apparently.
Oh, that is interesting.
Apparently, Ekron's quite genius.
Yes, well, you know, we can't always show it, Your Honour, just in case.
De-robotifying technology, very interesting. Any further questions?
And are the birds willingly captive by Ekron?
Yes, I see. Yes, I see. He said it with a bit of hesitation, but he said that the birds do stay with Ekron willingly. Yes.
Fascinating.
Fascinating. Any further questions?
Please, no.
No further questions, sir.
He's so cross.
No further questions. Right. You may let the spirit of the pigeon unpossess you.
Thank you, Your Honour. I'll just... God, oh, bad birds! What?
This is a quite normal occurrence.
Christ, this is difficult. Ah. Hello. You're going to have to let me go, though. Sorry. Right. Oh, God. If I might be so polite, Your Honour, never allow pigeon to possess your body. It's not good for your health.
Yes, I'd much rather allow a normal demon to possess my body. In a non-sexual way, if that came across wrong.
Very well, very well. Jesus.
What was his transformation related?
Right. So, Let's go over the facts that were elucidated in the investigation. The bird denied all charges that Ekron has been accused with. However, that can be handled by the prosecution as to how they want to go about shutting down on that evidence. In addition, the bird said that all the other birds in Ekron's household stay there willingly. I presume that includes Mr. Ekron's boyfriend, hopefully. But in addition to that, Ekron does possess some kind of electronic devices or material devices, or even magical, we're not sure, which have the ability to take the robotic flesh off of any captive material and turn it into normal, fresh. Normal, whether or not that leaves the subject alive at the end of the procedure is up for debate, but that was not asked by the prosecution. So, with that evidence out of the way, prosecution, you may come up and make your statements. Present your evidence and any witnesses you may have.
Wow. First, I would like to ask the accused if he has any grudges against robotic birds, or if they have any past occurrences of negative kind with the robotic kind of birds.
Not at all. In fact, one of my favourite cartoon characters is the robotic bird Scratch from The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, to the point where I was literally asking my other half to pick up one of the cell shades that unfortunately fell down when my body was possessed by Pidge, as I got a bit thrashy. I will be quite happy to share this in the bird chat later on to prove that such a thing exists, but no problem against robotic birds in any way, shape or form.
And why would you have technology then to turn non-robotic robotic birds into non-robotic birds?
So, in my job as a bus driver, after 6 months we are allowed to claim lost property that is left on the bus. And ironically enough, this technology was left on the bus one day. Trust me, we get all the weirdos on my buses. And I just took it. It's actually sitting in a corner over there. I've not really done anything with it. In fact, actually, let me just go twist the knob and just see what it does. Yeah, it looks like an old triangle.
Mr. Vulture, please do not touch it. Please do not touch it.
Oh, okay. Well, it is a
Do
power
not touch
control
the material
unit
in
type
question.
A3 from the Meccano Triang Dublo company from the 1950s. So it's quite old technology, but it looks like it would work. I've got a photograph of it here, but unfortunately we can't present photos as of such in a courtroom like this. But yes, it was left on the bus, and I took it as lost property. I'm probably going to throw it in the bin because I think it will burn.
I see.
If I plug it in.
I see. But going back to the track story, on the track story, you called me a red person, which is a factual truth, and you called the other person a non-red person, which is also a factual truth. So it would seem that you also implied that my client not being a bird is also a factual truth.
I suppose it could be seen that way, but that was not the intention at all. As I said, it was a satirical take, and I didn't want to keep referring to people based on the colour of their feathers, as that would just send off the wrong impression for our viewers of the Great Burbo Kart race, whatever it is I called it. It was simply a poorly thought out satirical joke. I mean, I took the piss out of the next driver for wearing glasses. Surely that's far more offensive than accidentally labelling somebody as not a bird.
But it's also a actual fact.
A fact? What a fact?
Yes, he was wearing glasses, so we were still at actual facts. I don't see how that is satirical.
The only person that I didn't refer to with an actual technical fact would be the plaintiff, Mr. Joel. Now, on the plus side, I said the video, you heard how quickly I had to go in between with no pre-planning, and therefore I just have to roll with what was off the top of my head, and therefore a fraudulent slip of the tongue, perhaps, although no offence was intended. It was a word that was said, and I just carried on as a host in a difficult situation, presenting to hundreds, thousands of people must do once in a while.
I see. So you took the first thing that came off your head, and you thought, this does not look like a bird?
Yes, I suppose that's the way it went around. And I said I've offered my most sincere apologies to Mr. Joe in the court here, as he didn't attempt to contact me beforehand to correct the issue. Just brought me straight to court.
Well, it seems we know the true nature of Ekron now that he assumes that Joel is not a bird. He only keeps up a facade for us to make us believe that he thinks he is a bird, but in his true nature, he does not believe that Joel is a bird.
Interesting. That implies a lot of questionable worldviews as to how species and, I guess in VR chat, that counts as race works, but we're not going to go into that at this time. As for the theft, Mr. Bonboo, you can continue with your side on that.
Yes, as it seems to me, Joel also has disappeared from the courtroom. I see his nameplate, but there he is.
Been a bit weird. I've had to block and unblock him quite a lot to make it work.
Or did you steal him and just returned him? And we were steal him when we were not looking,
Objection,
and now
Your
returned
Honor.
him now that we were
I
looking.
find that this train of
What's your
questioning that
objection?
I would physically steal him and do something whilst being asked questions and possessed by a pigeon offensive, Your Honour. It's obviously a mistruth
That is fair.
and unfair.
Sustained. Barnaby, you cannot dispute the facts of what Ekron Vulture did literally in this room while I was working with him. Continue.
Fair enough. The way Ekron moves seems still possessed.
Oh, apologies. Occasionally I have
You're
to
not-
do things out of my headset.
Mr. Barnaboo, if you will come to the stand for a moment. You're a junior lawyer, correct?
Yes.
Right. And what law school did you graduate from exactly?
From the law school of Earth.
Law School of Birds, right.
Ekron,
I
do you need a
can't say I
witness?
graduated from that law school. I graduated from the Law School of Bears. That's where I come from. But in my law school, at the very least, we were taught to prosecute based on the evidence that we have received. There's one interesting fact that the pigeon alluded to in your questioning. Why aren't you alluding to that fact? I want to help you out here. I'm throwing you a bone, Barnaby. This is very, very interesting stuff.
Which fact exactly?
I don't...
Objection, Your Honour. I
What's your
accept
objection?
that you are within your rights to speak to him, but I feel it is unfair for you to hand him the facts on a platter, Your Honour. It is up to him to determine these and present them
That's
to the
what I was
courtroom.
trying not to do.
Yes.
Right. Go back to your stand and continue your prosecution. Junior lawyers.
This is my second case. Yes, I'm a junior lawyer. Don't discriminate me for this. Okay, which facts have we acquired? We have stated that Mr. Robert. So, we've heard the testimony that the birds you're being held captive were supposedly with you
Objection,
willingly,
Your Honour.
but there was some hesitation.
What's your objection?
The witness did not state that they were being held captive against their wills. He stated that they were alright to be here.
He said, overruled. He said being held willingly. He didn't mean the captive part. I understand what he's meaning.
Okay.
They're in your house willingly.
Yes. And the birds being held by you. Which reason would they have to be in your house and not free?
You will find that all of the birds in my homing, except for Pidge, which does have a particular reason for living with me, are not native birds to the United Kingdom, and therefore would not be free as of such around here, if that makes sense. They are from South Africa and Australia. Pidge is a rock dove who fell from a nest at the age of 12 days old and who I raised. Although he is technically employed as the pigeon of the household, he is also technically my son, and probably the only son I'm ever going to have. Which is why he chooses to live here.
So
I don't kick my children out, unlike some parents who like to kick them out the nest very, very quickly.
So you took him in when he was helpless, and since then he's now stuck with you.
Since what, sorry?
So you took him in when he was helpless and couldn't refuse you, and now he's stuck with you.
Well, I don't think the word terminology stuck is a fair expression to use here, because you understand how birds work with imprinting as of such, yes?
Yes, it's a common feature of...
Yes. Mr. Pidge, by the definition of the law, is unfit for release into the wild as he is a domesticated bird, and doing so would lead to his untimely death. If he were to leave, he would be dead within 2 days, I have no doubts, because he has no survival instincts, because he was raised in a more anthro-bird fashion than feral bird fashion. And so are you implying that I should release him and allow my child to die? Because that's what it sounds
So
like
you
to
did
me,
not
and
take...
I find that offensive.
So you did not take sufficient measures to prevent him from imprinting on you
Well, the
while
thing
you were
is,
caring for him,
that one falls
with the
under...
intention of keeping him...
Mr. Barnaby, you asked a question. May I answer that question?
Yes.
This falls under my own inexperience of keeping birds from a young age, as I had never raised a bird from a young age, and I did not understand the concept of imprinting. So I did attempt to raise him in a way that would allow him to be released into the wild. However, at the age of around 22 days, I took him into the local town where the local feral pigeons that he would interact with to socialise in preparation for his release, and found that his reaction was not to socialise with the birds, but to viciously attack them whilst I was feeding them. And it was upon this realisation I realised that he had imprinted, and then actually looked up what imprinting was, and realised by the definition of the law that I could not release him. So it was a mistake on my half through inexperience.
I see.
I did actually intend, I actually legitimately intended to release him, out of character court. I did really actually want to release him, but I couldn't, because I wasn't ready to have a pet pigeon. But, it's gone fine. He's doing pretty well. It's 4 years in now. But I did intend to release him, and my own inexperience at the time, which I have remedied, prevented me from doing so, leading to one of the finest companions I've ever had in this household.
And the other birds in your household, were they acquired later or earlier?
Chad Vardy were acquired before Pidge. Vardy was acquired in late 2015, 2016 when I started bus driving. He was 1.5 years old when I got him. He's the cockatiel. He resides quite happily upstairs. And Chad was acquired in about a year before Pidge as part of 2 canaries, Chad and Griff. Griff sadly passed away, and that's quite a sad story. And so those two are the older. Benji and TJ, who are the 2 budgerigars, were acquired after Pidge was acquired. Their one was a rehouse, and the other was taken from a pet shop where he wasn't being treated well. He just wasn't. The pet
Might
shop is
I
now
interject for 1 second? You stated earlier that the other 2 birds that you owned, not the pigeon, were not native. Their species were not native to the region of Britain, correct?
Yes.
Do you know what nations they're native to? Because I'm just looking at the association with the British charge for a second, and that wasn't one that they accused you of. That was just on the books for a while.
Well, as I said, the budgerigar and the cockatiel, so TJ, Benji, and Vardy are natives to Australia, and Chad, who is the canary, is native to South Africa.
Australia and South Africa. From what I understand, British relations with those nations in the past have been tenuous at best. Well, not at best, but tenuous at worst.
Fuck the Empire, Your Honor.
Go on. Interesting. Right. Sorry to interrupt on that case. Barnaby, continue your investigation.
happened with the derobotifying device? What were your intentions with doing with it after acquiring it from the bus?
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I didn't hear you.
With the device you've acquired that you found on the bus, what were your intentions with doing with it? Since you've taken it with you.
I don't really know. I make a lot of YouTube videos, and occasionally having old equipment from the 50s and 60s makes useful props. I've used it in costumes for conventions beforehand. It's just a cool looking device, although it doesn't actually have a plug on the end, so it can't physically turned on currently, and it hasn't had a plug because I don't know how to wire 1950s and 60s electronics without killing myself. So I have...
So it could have been turned on already.
It could have been, but not in my possession because it didn't have a plug when I acquired it, and it requires a plug to plug into a standard mains connection in the United Kingdom. Much like you need in Germany. We need the same, just 3 prongs so we can stab our feet painfully and then curse because it's worse than Lego. It's worse than Lego! Apologies. Tangent.
Could this device be battery powered?
No. Well, no, it's literally got a mains socket, so it is supposed to be plugged into a mains.
But you do know how it works, or don't you?
Nope. I mean, if you really want, I can send you a photograph to you or to the judge on Telegram and to yourself in the Discord chat so you can see the device itself.
I would like some clarification on the device. You said it has a plug for the mains, or you said it has a socket for the mains. So you're implying that this device has a female connector and not a male connector.
No, apologies, Your Honour. It has no plug. It only has its power cable, but there's no plug on the end of it. It's been cut off, Your Honour.
Okay.
As I said, I will be happy to provide a photograph for the benefit of the prosecution and the judge through outside communications if you really want it, since we're going down that line.
Send...
Let me grab my phone.
How long would it take you to send me that photo?
30 seconds, Your Honour, because I can, if you'll forgive me, that I have just sent to the judge, Mr. Barnaby. So there's one going. As you can see, the device is as I have described it, and it is indeed sending on my file. Oh, it won't let me send a second file on Discord because it's too
I'm also seeing quite a bit of equipment used to repair electronics here. Very interesting.
Model trains, Your Honour.
We can only see the cable, but what does the plug look like?
There is no plug. That is it.
There is no plug.
There is no plug.
So there are just loose cables.
Times. Just the loose cable, as the plug had been chopped off, as I did state when you were questioning me.
So it could have also been attached with a battery.
No, it's a mains power unit. If you'd like, I can show you the information that shows it requires, I think it's 230 volts. Yes. 12
no need. Mr. Barnaby, he is correct. The photo here has a cable that has been cut, that's why it's hanging out, and mechanical repair equipment in the background.
Yes, that is interesting.
I am quite the model train enthusiast, and that does require very basic equipment to repair things. And one more into the chat for your benefit, Mr. Barnaby, just so you can see the power requirements. That means it would not run off a battery.
Right. Mr. Joel, did you have something you'd like to say to your lawyer? I thought I heard something. I just want to make sure. Okay. Carry on then.
So, does this picture then implicate you in the process of trying to repair this device?
How would it implicate me in the process of attempting to repair this device?
It is on your workbench.
It is a table.
Where you are working.
There are many things on
Yes.
it. Would you like to see the table? To see
Many electronic things. Yes, there are many things on there, including...
As I stated earlier on, for the benefit of the prosecution, I am not an engineer in any way, shape, or form, and do not have an electrical understanding enough to repair a device like this, nor would I attempt to do so because I do not wish to burn my house down or die, which is very likely if I attempt to do anything with that power thing. I have actually been intending to get shot with it.
Making a procedural injection here, Barnaby. If you'd like to come to conjectures about the photograph you're looking at, I will do heads and tails coin flips for this.
I don't know if I should object or not to that.
What are you implying about the photographs, Mr. Barnaby?
I'm thinking those photographs are are being taken before the device has been used. So I'll implicate that the device has either been repaired, or as it's a device that does not that does turn
Objection, Your Honor.
machines into non-machines.
Did I not state that I would take a photograph for you and then physically pull my phone out and go through the process of taking photos and then take a secondary photograph of the cable for the him as it would not go through the Discord? This is once again the whole
Barnaby,
he's
do you even
claiming what I
believe-
haven't done.
Barnaby, do you believe the equipment in the background of this photo is even enough to make such a repair?
There are wires on the train tracks, so they could be used to connect the wires to other power sources.
Objection, Your Honor. The cables on my table are speaker
objection?
wire, which is no way in any way, shape or form suitable for a mains volt electricity. Using such cables would just melt. And I may not be an electrician, but even I bloody know that.
But there are train tracks with metal stripes on them, and those metal stripes are thick enough to carry mains voltage.
They're really not. In fact, if you want an example of this, a gentleman called Sam's Trains on YouTube did an example of how much power you can run through a track and a train without destroying it, and physically welted the track at about 24 volts. Those metal would not be suitable. They're not
Coin
insulated.
flip reads tails. Coin flip reads tails. The detail you pointed out is false, Mr. Barnaby.
Okay.
Anything else interesting? Alright. That's enough of that line of questioning. We're going to proceed. We're going to give you one last chance to do rebuttals. Each person is going to have 2 minutes to make their rebuttals and nothing more. Would the prosecution please return to their stand? Alright. Mr. Ekron Vulture, I'm going to set up a timer here. I'm going to give you calls at 1 minute in and then 1 minute remaining, 30 seconds remaining. You have 2 minutes to make your statements, and that will be all. Is that understood?
What am I making statements about specifically, Your Honor?
Rebuttals to their claims or final closing remarks. Let's do closing remarks. Closing remarks.
Okay, so closing statements, Your Honor. Very well, thank you.
Closing statements. You have 2 minutes. Your time starts now.
Your Honour, I think throughout the course of this case, although Mr. Barnaby has asked some very relevant questions and brought some things up, I don't think that the prosecution have presented enough evidence forward that anything I have done has been malicious in any way, shape or form. They have not physically shown how I could have possibly stolen Mr. Joel, and have instead focused on something that my companion, Mr. Pidge, did say, that I own some robotification technology. I explained how I got it, and the fact that it is not functional, and that I do not have the capability of repair it. In regards to the crimes against birds, I have offered my most sincere apologies to Mr. Joe for a slip of the tongue during a very tight and difficult situation in front of cameras and people. My apologies have been offered. Whether he accepts it is entirely up to him. However, I have done nothing else to him that could be determined as crimes against birds, and this has not been shown by the prosecution in any way, shape or form. And as for association with the British, which you have brought up, he is British. Mr. Joel and I have associated with him as we have worked together professionally on the go-karting racing circuit, and therefore I do associate with him, so we are both guilty of that crime, Your Honour. I do not believe the prosecution, in good mind, has provided enough proof that I am technically guilty of anything that could be brought against me, but of course I am not the judge in this situation. You are, Your Honour, and I leave that in your hands. I rest my case, Your Honour. Thank you.
45 seconds. All right, you rest the case. All right, and Mr. Barnaby, would you like to step up and give your closing remarks? Let me tell you when the time starts. The time starts now.
Alright, Your Honor. I'm still not convinced that Ekron did not have malicious implications when he stated factual truth about everyone on the track and then decided to call my client not a bird, causing significant emotional despair in my client. And while I have not found sufficient evidence to point out that he has used the device, the further possession of this device can not mean any good for any robot bird that wants to stay a robot bird and not lose their species identity. And as such, this device should be destroyed at the earliest moment. And for the British Association, we will not pursue any more claims. I rest my case.
Rest the case. All right, so let me tell you how this is going to work, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I guess just gentlemen. This has been a thoroughly boring case, but I'm going to do my best to try and keep things interesting. As you can see here, I've had 3 stacks of paper. I'm sure you've noticed me fiddling around with these things. At the moment, that is where my mental position is on things right now. So, I'm not going to handle this in the typical liable, not liable fashion for civil cases. I'm going to make mandates for actions that must be carried out within the next 30 days, or if not then, if not possible to carry out by then, you must submit a document to me explaining why it is and suggesting a new deadline within the year. Now, as for the crime of theft, not enough evidence has been presented in order to fully and completely implicate Mr. Ekron Vulture in any sort of theft. The fact that the machine that would have been used to sort of deconflict the robotic bird and get it out of the court's awareness has not been used, not been repaired, or there is nothing in his house that contains the ability to repair it, implicates that he has not probably stolen your bird. At the same time, the possession of such a device is a bit of an eldritch horror, and as such, that device is to be confiscated by the state within the next 30 days. Judgment 1. As for the crimes against birds, Ekron is known to be a very interesting person with the demeanor that he takes. However, Barnaby, you do have a point that Ekron made factual judgments about all the other players in this case, and the fact about Joel was not. However, he has admitted that this was simply a comedic mistake, not a bit of slander, and to be fair, there are much worse things that can be said. The only thing I will say about this is that Ekron Vulture is to put a disclaimer in all future videos saying that claims made about people, birds, other animals that have been deemed by the District Court of VR Chat to be sentient, and other non-political figures is just satire. That disclaimer will be in the video that he posted and future videos to avoid having to litigate such a thing further. As for association with the British, Ekron Vulture, I know you've pleaded guilty on this one several times, but to be quite frank with you, the fact that you own birds and take such good care of them from other countries, specifically countries that the United Kingdom has had a tiff with in the past, means that I do not believe that you are guilty on association with the British, and so you are cleared of that charge. However, fourth charge has been texted to me recently, and this one, unfortunately, Mr. Ekron, I don't think you have any kind of way to get out of, because I've witnessed it firsthand, is the tarnishing of the reputation of Margaret Thatcher. You have made many negative statements about Margaret Thatcher in the past, and unfortunately, None of the evidence you present today is going to be able to clear you that because, let's be honest, I have witnessed that. And for your punishment for speaking ill of Margaret Thatcher, a big festival is going to be thrown in your name where you are fed and celebrated as a hero.
This will conclude the entirety of the case. Thank you very much. And may the bailiff escort all the parties out. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.